Welcome back to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into a topic that's becoming increasingly urgent for businesses across Europe. AI consultancy for local companies in Den Haag and how they can prepare for the EU AI Act. Sam, thanks for joining me. This feels like a regional issue on the surface, but I suspect there's a much bigger story here about governance and competitive advantage.
Absolutely, Alex. Den Hogg is a fascinating case study because it's not just any city. It's home to government agencies, healthcare institutions, and professional services firms that are all heavily regulated. The pressure to adopt AI is real, but so is the compliance risk. What we're seeing is that 72% of Dutch organizations lack proper AI governance frameworks, and that number is probably even higher in sectors dealing with public contracts or patient data.
That's a striking statistic. So let me ask directly, why does Den Hogg specifically face this challenge right now? Is it just the EU AI Act deadline, that August 2026 enforcement date everyone keeps citing? Or is there something unique about the local economy?
Both, actually. Den Hogg has about 500 public sector organizations, plus a concentration of government contractors, hospitals, and legal and accounting firms. The Dutch government alone processed $14.2 billion in procurement contracts in 2023, and Den Hogg accounts for roughly 18 to 22% of the high compliance deals. That means if you're a local business competing for public contracts, you simply cannot deploy AI without proving governance compliance. It's not optional, it's a table stakes requirement.
Okay, so we're talking about government procurement, healthcare, professional services, all sectors where transparency and auditability aren't nice-to-haves. They're mandatory. But here's what I'm curious about. Is the EU AI Act creating risk, or is it creating opportunity for early movers?
Both again, but the opportunity outweighs the risk if you act now. A 2024 Deloitte survey found that 61% of Dutch enterprises can't even document their AI systems' risk classifications. That's a massive governance debt. Organizations that implement compliant AI governance frameworks today will avoid expensive retrofit projects after August 2026, and they'll have a competitive advantage when government agencies and insurers start vetting vendors for AI maturity.
So you're saying the companies that get ahead of this won't just be compliant, they'll be more trustworthy in the market. Let's make this concrete. Do you have a real example of how a Den Hogg organization tackled this challenge?
Yes. A mid-sized municipal health authority in Den Hogg came to AetherMIND having deployed a chatbot pilot for health information, completely ungoverned. They had no documented risk classification, no data processing agreements with vendors, and citizen health data mixed unsafely with administrative logs. Their epidemiology team was using predictive models without formal governance oversight, and their IT and clinical teams weren't even coordinated on AI decisions.
That sounds like a pressure cooker. They had AI running, they had patient data involved, and nobody had a clear governance structure. What did the readiness assessment actually reveal?
3 major gaps. First, governance. No risk classifications, no vendor agreements, no AI lead architect or governance owner. Second, data architecture. Mixing of sensitive health data without pseudonymization or compliance controls. Third, skills gap. Decision-making was scattered across teams without a clear AI governance board. It was a classic situation where technology outpaced policy, and compliance risk was flying under the radar.
And that's probably not unique to this one health authority. I imagine similar patterns across healthcare, government, and professional services in Den Haag. So what did the remediation roadmap look like?
The timeline was 6 months. Months 1 and 2 focused on establishing an AI governance board and formally classifying their AI systems. The chatbot was limited risk, epidemiology models were high risk, scheduling systems were minimal risk. They brought in an AI lead architect as a governance owner, created data processing agreements with their AI vendors, and pseudonymized citizen data in their data lake.
Those early months seem like the foundational work. How did they approach the higher risk systems, like the epidemiology models?
High-risk systems require way more rigor. You need transparent documentation of model training data, performance validation across population subgroups, human-in-the-loop review processes for high-stakes decisions, and ongoing monitoring for bias and drift. For epidemiology, that meant involving clinical experts in the governance loop, logging all model updates, and creating audit trails so regulators could trace any decisions back to the underlying data and logic.
That's the kind of thing that probably sounds expensive and bureaucratic to a busy hospital administrator, but I'm guessing the alternative. Deploying high-risk AI without that structure is far worse?
Exactly. Without that governance, you're exposed to regulatory fines, reputational damage, patient safety risks, and potential liability if a biased or buggy model drives bad health decisions. The EU AI Act specifically calls out healthcare as high risk, so there's no gray area. Organizations that wait until 2026 to retrofit governance will be playing catch-up, while competitors have already built trust with regulators and customers.
So the playbook seems to be assess, classify, govern, document, iterate. But I want to understand the practical side. If I'm a Den Hogg professional services firm, say a legal or accounting practice, how does this roadmap apply to me? We're not healthcare. We don't have patient data, but we are using AI.
Professional services are actually a sweet spot for AI adoption because the use cases are often high value and high risk. Contract analysis, due diligence, tax research, these are tasks where AI can extract huge time savings, but a wrong answer has legal or financial consequences. Right now, most firms lack formal risk classification for those systems, which means they're flying blind on compliance.
So the first step for a firm like that is probably the AI readiness assessment, understanding what AI they're using, where the risk actually lives, and what governance controls they need to put in place.
Precisely. The readiness scan typically uncovers three things: what AI systems are already running in the firm, often in pockets, different departments using different tools with no central visibility; what data flows through those systems and whether it meets GDPR and AI Act standards; and what skills and governance structures exist to oversee it all. Most firms find out they're undisciplined in all three areas.
And then what? Let's say the assessment reveals gaps. What does a realistic transformation roadmap look like for a mid-sized professional services firm?
It usually unfolds in phases. Month 1 is governance setup. Establish an AI governance committee, typically led by a partner-level sponsor and an AI lead architect who owns the transformation. Month 2 through 3, you classify and document existing AI systems, create vendor agreements, and build data lineage maps. Month 4 through 6, you implement guardrails, access controls, audit logging, model explainability tools, and human review workflows for high-stakes decisions.
What about skills and training? That skills gap you mentioned earlier, is that something firms need to address in parallel?
Absolutely. You can't build governance if your team doesn't understand what they're governing. So you're running parallel work streams, upskilling existing IT and business leaders on AI governance and the EU AI Act, potentially hiring or contracting an AI lead architect to own the strategy, and embedding compliance training into the hiring and onboarding process for anyone working with AI.
It sounds like this isn't a one-time project, but an ongoing operating model. Once you've got governance in place, what does the business look like a year or two down the road?
That's the key insight. Organizations that nail this early become compliance-first practitioners. They can deploy AI faster and with more confidence because they have repeatable governance processes. They can tackle higher-risk, higher-value use cases, agentic AI, autonomous workflows, real-time decision systems, because they have audit-ready infrastructure. And they become more attractive to government contracts, insurance partners, and enterprise customers who care about AI maturity.
So the competitive advantage isn't just avoiding fines, it's being able to innovate faster and more boldly than competitors who are playing catch-up on governance. That's a really compelling argument for getting started now, especially in a city like Den Hogg, where so much of the economy depends on public contracts and regulated sectors.
Right. And the August 2026 deadline is both a threat and a catalyst. Organizations that haven't started will face massive pressure to retrofit governance, audit their AI portfolios, and redo vendor agreements under time crunch. Those with a 3 to 6 month head start will have documented, audit-ready systems and a seat at the table with regulators.
Okay, so for listeners in Den Haag or similar regulated markets, the takeaway is that AI governance isn't slowing you down. It's actually a competitive differentiator if you get ahead of it. Start with a readiness assessment. Classify your AI systems and put an AI lead architect in charge of the transformation. And if you want the full details on how this plays out across different sectors and organizations, head over to etherlink.ai and check out the full article on AI consultancy for local businesses in Den Hogg and EU AI Act readiness.
Thanks, Alex. And for anyone curious about the specifics, governance frameworks, implementation timelines, vendor assessment checklists, all of that is in the full piece. Sam here, and we'll see you next time on EtherLink AI Insights.